There's a lot of folks here and a few more popping in as we speak. Welcome. It's a lovely way to spend what's turned out to be a beautiful day and going to be a beautiful week. I'm sure a lot of flowers are going to be popping, that if they're not out already, there's a lot of spring flowers that'll be popping out now, with potential of 80 degrees tomorrow and the next day. So, or at least close to 80 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So, I welcome you everyone to the Tennessee Native Plant Society's Native Plant Seminar Series. And our speaker tonight is our own Allan Trently. He's Vice President of TNPS. But his real job, his day job, is he's a West Tennessee stewardship ecologist with the State Natural Areas Program in the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. That's a big mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
He manages and promotes 17 state natural areas in West Tennessee, and that entails creating and updating plant and animal inventories, controlling invasive exotic plants, conducting ecological management, constructing and repairing trails, repairing boardwalks, writing management plans, leading hikes and nature walks, leading canoe kayak floats, giving presentations, writing articles about the natural areas, and a whole lot more. And he's going to be talking with us tonight about native plant highlights from West Tennessee, 2008 to the present. And I know he's got a lot of information on some very rare plants in West Tennessee. So I'm going to say welcome, Allan. If you want to share screen or just talk, it's up to you.
I will share the screen and welcome everybody. We're up to 55 participants right now. Let's see. Let's share the screen. We have shared.
All right.
Let's see if I can. That stupid thing is in the way. I can't start to think of this thing is in the way.
What was it on slideshow up here?
I'm trying, but it won't. Well, I mean, it won't let me.
In the line below where it says slideshow, did we go there?
New slide.
Up in
That's
the there.
Whoop.
No,
That's not good.
just go back. There you go. Where it says slideshow,
Stop
file,
video.
home, insert, design, transitions, animations, slideshow. Across second line on top.
The black bar where the video is covering it, so I can't find it.
Oh, that's.
How do you get rid of that thing? Record share. Well, I can't find it, so I can't share. I can't start.
Straight up, move your pointer up, straight up. Let me guide you.
Manage.
Slideshow is up about a half inch above where your pointer is now.
Oh. Current from beginning.
There you go.
I don't know what I did, but it worked. Bang.
You hit slideshow.
You got it.
So I was telling you. Teamwork.
All right.
Teamwork.
Well, thanks for that introduction. As Karen said, I'm with TDEC. In TDEC, I'm with the Tennessee Division of Natural Areas. Take care of these natural areas in West Tennessee, which I have 17. Throughout the state of Tennessee, we have 84 state natural areas. So 17 in my region. And like she said, I take care of, first, state natural areas. Some of them occur in state parks, but like Meeman Shelby in West End, Reelfoot Lake has a state natural area. But within the state natural area, there are no buildings, there are no bathrooms, except for a big tree you can hide behind. Usually what we have in a state natural area is at the most a parking lot and an informational kiosk and a trail. So the purpose of the state natural areas is to preserve and conserve natural environments, especially rare plant communities or even rare animal communities. So I have 17 of these, and like she said, like Karen said, I do for the management plans. I think to write a good management plan, you got to have a good inventory. And that's inventory of plants, animals, and ecological communities. So I've been to all these 17 natural areas, and I'm looking at plants and some of the highlights in this presentation are from some of that inventory work. I started this job 15 years ago in 2008. So that's why the presentation starts since 2008. That's the time period I'm most familiar with. If we go before 2008, there were some really great highlights, plant highlights, but we're going to do 2008 to present. And why highlights? And I'm going to talk about what I mean by highlights here soon, but why plant highlights? Well, West Tennessee, as far as the state of Tennessee is concerned, is the least botanized part of the state. Botanist Claude Bailey looked at every county in the state of Tennessee and looked at all the herbarium records for each county. And the counties that had the least, most of them were in West Tennessee. So there hasn't been a whole lot of botanical work in West Tennessee. But there are the few of us out here since 2008 and before that, of course, that have gone out. May not be our job is not to go out and looking for plants. We got a lot of other things to do, but our passion is to go look and explore for plants, animals, whatever that may be. And, maybe 5 people in all of West Tennessee. And sometimes we get people from Central Tennessee or East Tennessee to come over, but basically there's just very few of us out here. But since 2008, I was looking at all these rare plant records and it's like, wow, look at all this stuff we are finding. Somebody needs to tell somebody about all this. We need to put this in the newspaper. This is huge. This is something to celebrate, I think. All these incredible plants that people are finding here in West Tennessee. I really think that it should be in the newspaper, like this newspaper ad that I found in the Jackson Post. Awesome plant found. Now there's a great headline. In between all the crime and the crazy politics that's going on, you got this article here. Awesome plant find. And people are reading this and they're excited about it. I'm not going to read all that, but Snake Gibbons recently found a new and exciting population of gossamer wingweed. Oh man, that is big. That's big news. That happened here in Jackson. The last paragraph, the local citizenry plan to celebrate the finding at the next hootenanny. They're going to celebrate this at the next hootenanny, where local bluegrass legends, the Chigger Ridge Boys, you gotta love the Chigger Ridge Boys, but they're going to play because this plant was found. Awesome. That would be great if this happened, but I made this article up. This doesn't really happen. Sometimes it does. But some of the highlights in this presentation, I think, should make the local news, maybe, and some of them the state news. And there's one plant in particular that I'm going to highlight. It should definitely make national news, if not global news. So it's a big highlight when we get to that. So we need to celebrate this stuff. Finding a plant is one thing. Conservation is another thing. And there's a few successes in conservation that I'll talk about in this presentation as well. So what makes a highlight? Well, you can go out in your backyard and see a beautiful plant. That may be a highlight for you. I have many of those highlights. It could be a very, very common plant, but man, when I go back up to Pennsylvania where I used to live, I see these plants that are very common up there. but I haven't seen them in years, and they're like old friends, you see. So they're highlights for me. But I can't have all those highlights in this presentation, so we have to define it, shorten the scope a little bit. What are the highlights for this presentation? Of course, a significant rare plant find. There's been quite a lot of rare plants found in West Tennessee since 2008. Some of them didn't make the cut for this presentation. They're rare, but not too rare. Some of the stuff in this presentation are really rare plants. A highlight would be a disjunct plant or range extension. For instance, a plant that may be common in East Tennessee or Central Tennessee, and it's found way over here in West Tennessee, maybe along the Mississippi River, as west as you can get in Tennessee. Rediscovered plants. There are some plants. If you look in the Tennessee Vascular Guide to Plants, they'll have notes for each plant in there. And occasionally you'll see a statement like, this plant hasn't been seen since 1947. So if these plants have been discovered in the last 15 years, bang, that's a big highlight. And then the last one is discoveries in rare to uncommon plant communities. I put that last one on there because of the first thing I'm going to talk about, I think is a highlight for a number of reasons. I'm actually going to talk about a community first that has some rare plants in it. And this community is called the Upper East Gulf Coastal Plain Post Oak Woodland Community. Or for short, we'll just call it the Sand Post Oak Community. And this is a community type that's very, very rare in Tennessee. It's only found in Fayette County. In Fayette County, that's Fayette County, Tennessee. And it does, this community type follows this bluff, this kind of bluffy ridge line down into Mississippi. So it's also in Mississippi as well. And like I said, it's a rare community. It's considered a G2 imperiled community. So G2, G stands for global. And if you're G1, that's the rarest of the rare globally. And if you're G5, that's a common community type. So G2 is almost the rarest of the rare. And the reason why I'm putting this community in the presentation, for two reasons. There are three really rare plants. Two of them have been found since 2008. And the second reason is because of some recent news. Because of this community being so rare and very interesting too, I always wanted it to be part of the state natural system, but it wasn't at one point. And since it's in Fayette County, I figured we'd add it to Ghost River State Natural Area. Well, just last year, the Wolf River Conservancy, a land trust, kind of like the Nature Conservancy, but the Wolf River Conservancy in Memphis, and their focus area is the Wolf River watershed, which goes through Fayette County into Shelby County to the Mississippi River. They looked at a property and the landowner was selling it, and they got into a deal and bought the property. It's a 90-acre property that includes the Sand Post Oak community. And usually what the Wolf River Conservancy or other land trusts do is they'll buy that property and then they'll sell it to a state or federal, some kind of government agency. And of course, this was a definite, we're definitely buying it from Wolf River Conservancy because it has this rare community. So we bought this property and now it is part of the Ghost River State Natural Area. And it's 90 acres, contains this extremely rare community. And because we own it now, I can do some management on it. In fact, I started management last year with treating some exotic invasives and some ecological management, started thinning out some of the trees in the community type to allow more sunlight on the ground. And we also have done inventories of the 90 acres that we bought, which includes this community. We're over 200 species of plants already there.
Mhm.
And so that's a highlight. Just having this community, having the ability to manage, to conserve, as well as to study the community is very important. And like I said, there are 3 species of plants already that we know that are rare on there. And one of them is the sandpost oak. And that is an S1 plant. S stands for state. Of course, in this case, the state of Tennessee, S1 is the rarest of the rare, critically imperiled. If you were S5, you'd be pretty common. S5 could be dandelion or white oak, sassafras maybe. So S1, very, very rare. Sandpost oak only occurs in this community type in Fayette County, Tennessee. It's also in Mississippi too. And sandpost oak is actually, I guess, somewhat common along the coast of, I don't know, maybe Louisiana, Georgia, so on, but rare up here. Sandpost oak was first found in the state of Tennessee before 2008. But since I mentioned it, let's talk about it. It was found in 2001. So before 2001, we didn't know this. Nobody knew this plant was in Tennessee. But someone named David Smith, some of you may know him. If you're into champion trees, David Smith is the champion tree expert in Southwest Tennessee. Champion trees are the biggest trees in a county or within the state of Tennessee. So pretty much all the champion trees in that region, southwest region, are David Smith's trees. But he was down in this area where this community occurs. And David Smith actually grew up along the coast, I think the coast of Georgia. So he was familiar with sandpost oak. But he was there and he was looking at this post oak. And something told him that this wasn't just regular old post oak, which is Quercus stellata. Sandpost oak is Quercus margarita. Margarita. But good time for margaritas. It's Mardi Gras. But I digress. We're talking about plants here. David Smith, he saw the plant, and this takes just knowing that it looked different and questioning himself takes a lot of experience. So good job, David Smith. That same day, Claude Bailey is a local botanist. He lives in Jackson. He came down and saw David Smith that same day, and he looked at the plant, and they got the keys out, the keys for Tennessee, and of course, sandpost oak isn't in those keys. But eventually they got it confirmed to be sandpost oak. So bang, they got a new tree species, a new plant species for Tennessee. It's not easy to get a new plant species for Tennessee, especially a tree. Trees shouldn't be hard to miss. This is only the first tree species that's new for the state that I'm going to talk about in this presentation. So bang, a rare community with sandpost oak, S1, critically imperiled. And here's the next highlight that's also within this community, the capillary hair sedge, S1, another S1, critically imperiled species. In the state of Tennessee, it's endangered, state endangered. So if we look at that picture here, those little green straw-like things is the capillary hair sedge, not much to it. But what's interesting in this picture is the substrate. The soil is sand. So this is an upland sand community. These bluffs are made out of sand. You don't find a lot of that in Tennessee, except sand along rivers and streams. So makes this community a little extra interesting. So capillary hair sedge, according to the Tennessee Vascular Guide, it says possibly extirpated from the state. Hasn't been seen in the state in decades. But in 2012, Dr. Dwayne Estes went down to Fayette County in a site where this plant was historically known from, and he rediscovered it. So that was 2012. So bang, we got a plant that we thought might be extirpated, was rediscovered. In 2019, Claude Bailey and myself, we were in Fayette County in this community type, and we were in a different location and found more of this capillary hair sedge in a brand new location that wasn't part of the historical site. And when we found it, we counted quite a lot, or probably over 100 plants. And now where we found that plant is now part of Ghost River State Natural Area. So I'm going to manage for this plant and hope that I can make it thrive in that community. So bang, 2 S1 critically imperiled plants in this rare community that's now part of the state natural system. And then a third one, which is also an S1 plant, Plukinet's flat sedge. I got to say the scientific name here, Cyperus plukinettii. There's another Cyperus or flat sedge that looks a lot like it, and that's Cyperus retrofractus. And I say that because when I saw this plant, I had to figure out which one it was. I leaned towards plukinets because of some hairs here or there. It's always about hairs. Because it's such a rare plant, you know, and when I just looking at the keys and I came to plukinets, I was like, well, unsure, especially since it said in the vascular field guide, this plant has not been seen since 1949 in the state of Tennessee. So I was like, whoa, surely this is not what I have. So I took a specimen, not a whole plant, but a piece of the plant, and turned it into the University of Tennessee Knoxville Herbarium, and they looked at it and they put it down as Plukinet's flat sedge. But if anyone out there works for the UT Herbarium or volunteers for them, go in there and take another look at this plant, because I really want to be sure that this is retrofractus. So this is a highlight, but maybe a provisional highlight. I know it's in the herbarium, so, but I'm kind of doubting myself, because when I went back to this community type, I found the other one, the common one, Cyperus retrofractus, and there was a lot of it. So I thought about taking this slide out, but hell, it's in the herbarium as Plukinet's flat sedge, so I'm going to keep it in here. So S1, so that's 3 S1 plants in this rare community that's now part of the state natural area. Bang, lots of highlights there. Just to add to this, there's some other plants in there that aren't state listed, they're not state endangered or threatened or anything, but to me they're very uncommon. Slender Indian grass, Sargastrum aleatii. I found that there, and it's the only place I know in all of Tennessee where I could find that. And then woolly threon, Aristida lanosa, beautiful grass. For a grass, it was kind of easy to identify. I love it when a grass is easy to identify. Again, these are not state listed, but I don't find them anywhere else in the state, so at least in West Tennessee. And then another plant that needs to be mentioned here, it's not exactly rare, but shortleaf pine. In West Tennessee, that's a rare tree, and it's part of this community type. So our first highlight was a community and what's in it. The next highlight, we kind of switch gears a little bit, and we go to this little guy here, little brown jug. So this plant, it's pretty common in East Tennessee, as well as into the Cumberland Plateau. And of course, Hexastylus aerifolia. This particular one you're looking at is variation, the variation aerifolia. The other one is Aerifolia ruthii. So I was leading a trip, one of my hikes that I lead for natural areas back in April 2015, pointing out some plants at Meeman Shelby along the Woodland Trail, had about 15 people on the trip, and pointing out this one, this one, this one. And then we're on the trail back to the parking lot. And I look over and I see this. And I used to live in East Tennessee. I'm very familiar with the plant, so I knew exactly what it was. And I was just like, what the hell? Why is that's not supposed to be here? Because everybody's looking over there. I don't know what they think I'm looking at, a Sasquatch or something, but I'm looking at this plant here. And I pointed it out. Since, I had to look in the range map of the plant, which looks something like this, because I knew it wasn't in West Tennessee, but it's a plant of Eastern Tennessee. And the map you see here is the variation erifolia. If it was ruthii, most of those eastern counties would be orange, meaning that the plant is known to occur there. But the plant I found at Meeman Shelby is the erifolia. That last slide you saw, what you were looking at was the entire known population of little brown jug in West Tennessee. I went back and looked all over the bluff there for more of it, could not find any. So all we know is that plant is just there. That I measured the population is 1 foot by 1 foot. That's it of the known population. Maybe there's more out there. We just have to find it. So if you are ever at Meeman Shelby or in one of the other bluffs along the Mississippi River, what we call the Chickasaw Bluffs, and you find that plant, that's a big discovery. Little piggies, as they call it sometimes. Just why is it such a highlight? Well, it's a range expansion, not just a range expansion, it's a disjunct population. The closest known site in Tennessee where you can find this plant from the Meeman Shelby population is over 200 miles away. And the closest sites in Mississippi and Alabama where you can find the plant is over about 120 miles away. So it's way out there, all by itself, a foot by a foot population. Crazy. And so we call this a disjunct plant. And to my understanding and how I really simplify what possibly happened here is that maybe a long time ago, let's say 1 million years ago, the climate was different. Little brown jug could survive throughout Tennessee. And then the climate changed. It got drier, warmer. The glaciers receded north of Tennessee. And so little brown jug was not able to survive, but for some reason it was able to survive in the Chickasaw Bluff of Meeman Shelby. And there's actually a published paper about the disjunct plants of the Chickasaw Bluffs. There are more disjunct plants such as cucumber magnolia. You could find that at Meeman Shelby too. And you'd have to go, once you get out of the bluffs of Meeman Shelby, you'd have to go maybe east of Nashville before you pick up cucumber magnolia again. The theory is there was a microclimate on those bluffs because of the Mississippi River, all that cool, moist air coming from the Mississippi River into these bluffs, which are already forested and lush. So this microclimate allowed this plant as well as some of the other disjunct plants to survive. So bang, a new disjunct range expansion, big highlight there. This next plant that we're going to talk about, this is the biggest highlight of all the highlights. This is the one where I think could be in the national news. It should have been in national news or the global news. And it's this little plant here called Harbison's hawthorn. So many years ago, decades ago, there were plants found, and but these plants haven't been plants found of Harbison's hawthorn, but these plants haven't haven't been seen in decades. So they're all considered historic populations. People have looked and not found them. It's possible they've gone extinct in those locations or just haven't found them. So at one point, it was thought that this Harbison's hawthorn was pretty much gone from the planet. This is one of the rarest plants in the world. In 1982, our division, my division, state natural areas, considered it possibly extirpated from the state. Called it an S1, critically imperiled. There were no known populations of it. And then in 1993, somebody found Harbison's hawthorns, a single tree in the Nashville area. So now the world population is one tree. The next year, in that same area, and this is Percy Warner Park in Nashville, somebody found the second tree. So now the world population is 2 trees of this. Awesome, we doubled the population. And then in 1997, one of the trees died. So we're back down to 1 tree. Not looking good. Harbison's hawthorn is in the same family as apples, the rosacea family. You can graft apples, so people grafted that 1 tree, and apparently there are some Harbison's hawthorn in cultivation. But in the wild, there's only 1 tree. But that was then. In October of 2014, Barry Hart, who I think is one of the best ecologists in Tennessee. He was doing some work out in West Tennessee, and he was going through Obion County, and he looked over and he saw these white flowers on a shrub. And I'm sure he was familiar with Harbison's hawthorn. So he pulled over, went over there, got the key out. Hawthorns are really hard to key out. Sometimes you just give up, you can't do it. But Harbison's hawthorn is actually somewhat easy, especially if you have the flowers. So he's keying this thing out, and it comes to Harbison's hawthorn. It's like, no, no way. There's no way. There's only 1 in the world, in the wild. Took a specimen, clipped a stem from it, and it was confirmed in the herbarium, the Tennessee herbarium, that this is indeed Harbison's hawthorn. The next year, Barry Hart and others went back and they counted up the 36 trees in this population. And I've actually heard that they've actually gotten over 40 trees. So a tree, the rarest tree possibly in the world, went from 1, then to 2, then back down to 1. Now we're up over 40 individuals in this population. And the good news is, this is on private land, but the private landowner is receptive and he's receptive to management. In fact, some management has already began of thinning around the trees, and other management things have been done. This slide just shows the current global population of Harbison's hawthorn. The red dot in Davidson County near Nashville, and the red dot in Obion County, the plants that Barry Hart found back in 2014. The black circles are historic locations, and the black outline of Lawrence County, that's a historic location. They weren't sure exactly where, so they just made the whole county, highlighted the whole county. But historic, they haven't been seen in a long time. My goal is to do some exploring around Reelfoot Lake up in Obion and Lake County, and hopefully find more of these plants this year. So this is the biggest highlight of this presentation, and awesome job to Barry Hart for seeing this and knowing enough to pull over and get out and taking a look at this. As they were looking at these plants, they came up with another really good highlight, and it was this one, Kansas hawthorn. This is not an uncommon plant outside of Tennessee. If you go west of Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, not too familiar with it over there, but it's common. It's more common. In Tennessee, it's never been seen until they started looking counting the Harbison's hawthorn. So Kansas hawthorn is a new tree species for Tennessee. So bang, yet another highlight in that same site. A few years ago, the Tennessee Native Plant Society did a field trip to the hawthorn site. So quite a few of our members got to see that Harbison's hawthorn. One of the benefits of being a member of the Native Plant Society. So all the plants that follow are highlights in their own sense, but not as highlighty as, if that's a word, highlighty, as the hawthorn here. Prairie snoutbead is our next one, Rhynchosia. It's listed state endangered and also possibly extirpated. And what I understand is there was a historic location for it in Chester County, just south of Jackson, that was from 1947, but it hasn't been seen since 1947. In 2017, Claude Bailey, who lives in the area, he was out doing what he usually does in between work and driving between work and going home and just getting out. He's driving and watching the banks of the roads, looking for prairie remnants. And he's finding a lot of prairie plants. Most of them are not really rare. Some are a bit rare, but nothing as rare as when he found this back in 2017. So he was in Chester County in Henderson, and he was checking out a bank where road crews do mow, and he found this plant that was possibly extirpated and not seen since 1947. So a big highlight here for him. This is a plant of barrens and open woods, which, along with some of the other plants he was finding there, which were plants of barrens and open woods, it really tells us what this probably looked like many years ago. Right now, the location is a little bit urban and a lot where it's not urban or houses, it's forested. But a couple hundred years ago, it was probably open savanna and prairies at one point. So prairie snout bean. Oh, and just last year, I went to the site where he has the prairie snout bean and found it. But I found some more plants, and I went across the road and found some additional plants that he didn't find originally in 2017. So the population is doing okay. Not great, but it's not doing bad. So the first federally endangered plant on my highlight list. Oh, sorry. This is the slide of the prairie snout bean, just to give you an idea of the range. The green state, dark green states are where it's known to occur. The light green counties, it's where it's common. And then that little tiny orange crescent in Tennessee, that's Chester County, where Claude Bailey found the snout bean. So it's the only location in Tennessee. So as I was saying, the next plant is the only plant that is federally endangered on this talk, and that is the world sunflower, Helianthus verticillatus. This occurs in West Tennessee. There's some populations in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. As part of my job, I go out with a crew and we monitor the known locations. And then once we monitor them, we also go looking for new locations. And since 2018, we've traveled all over the roads and looked and looked and looked and never found anything. Never. And some of the known locations are extirpated. They're gone. The only places we know this plant to be in Tennessee, in West Tennessee, are in really, really disturbed areas, the edges of agricultural fields, railroad right-of-ways, and right-of-ways of major roads. So in very disturbed locations. And as since like I said, since 2018, we've watched some of these populations decrease for different reasons. It may be the management of the railroad. They're mowing and they're spraying, so that's possible. But anyway, it's been bad news. Until last year, we got a bit of good news. And, whenever I travel south of Jackson, I'm looking for this plant along the roadsides. I'm looking. I drove right by this new population that Claude Bailey found last year. I didn't even see it. When I got to Fayette County that day, I got a text from Claude saying, guess what I found? So on the way back home, I stopped and I found the population. It was very easy to see because it was in flower, and I started counting the stems. I got to 100 and had to quit. There were just too many stems of this. I estimated over 200 stems of this federally endangered plant at this location, just south of Jackson. I believe it would be Madison County. So this was a big highlight for us, for a plant that we've been watching, monitoring, and seeing the numbers decrease. We got a big boost from last year when Claude found this population. It is a roadside plant, roadside population. It's near a kudzu patch, a mowed road right away, and a soybean field. It's not in a good location. I think the reason we haven't found it before last year is because it was probably mowed every year. Last year, they may have mowed a little bit early, so we were able to see it come up. The hope is that we can do something here to conserve or to manage this plant, maybe work with the road crews or so on. But a federally endangered plant, now we got a new population that's got over 200 stems. Awesome highlight here. So this is probably one of the most beautiful plants in my highlight presentation, although this next one is a big contender for most beautiful plant. We got the showy lady slipper. Most of you are familiar with the pink lady slipper, which is quite common in East Tennessee, or I guess somewhat common in East Tennessee in the right environments. Some of you may have seen the yellow one. Well, this one, the showy lady slipper, very rare in Tennessee. Back in 2017, Cooper Breeden, who most of you might know, Cooper Breeden, who works for Southeastern Grasslands Initiative and the Tennessee Plant Conservation Alliance, he was doing some work with rare plants, probably monitoring some rare plants, collecting seed, whatever he was doing. And he came upon this. When it's in flower, you know what you got. There's nothing else that looks like this. So bang, this is a big highlight. I'm not even going to tell the county, because not that anybody on this presentation would go and dig it up if you could find it. But this is one of those plants that people would dig up. So we're kind of keeping it a big secret. But it occurs somewhere over there where that red star is. The known populations before that was found was way up here in Northeast Tennessee, in I believe that's Washington County and Claiborne County, maybe. I didn't measure the distance, but that's got to be close to, definitely over 100 miles away, close to 200 miles away or something. So another disjunct plant, huge range expansion here of an incredibly rare plant. Showy lady slipper is an S1 plant and it is state endangered. So bang, he gets two highlights here. Cooper Breeden gets two highlights here for a range expansion or disjunct plant and finding an incredibly rare plant. And he found 9 stems of it. So small population, but it's there and it's in an area where it's somewhat protected. So the next 2 slides or so to introduce them, say, if you got a lot of experience in botany, ecology, you can drive to a site and say, I'm not going to find anything really rare or special in this location just looking at it. And then you go in there and you don't find anything rare or really special in that location. You go in there and identify plants just because you'll love it. And then there's some locations you go to and you think the same thing, and you go in there and you find some cool stuff. And that's what happened to me when I was at Pickwick Landing State Park. I found Maple Leaf Viburnum, which, if you're in East Tennessee, not very rare. But I found it way over where that red dot is. That is Hardin County. The interesting thing about this plant is if you go there in the fall and you're driving along the road near the marina, it's very obvious that it's there. In fact, I've been by there quite a few times and missed it. Just happened to look right and say, wow, look at that beautiful red. It was the fall, so it was in fall colors, parked in Maple Leaf Viburnum. So it was a highlight just because it was a range expansion. So that's a case where you go into an area where, I don't think I'll find anything really good, and you do. So that happens. And then there's those locations where you go to, and when you first see it, you're like, wow, there's going to be something rare in there. There is no doubt about it. And that is this next plant, Godfrey Stitchwort. I took pictures of it in the community and all kinds of stuff, and I don't know where those pictures are. So all you got is a range map. But this range map tells a big story here. The plant was found in Perry County, and the nearest location of Godfrey Stitchwort is way up in Northeast Tennessee. So this was during one of Bart Jones's butterfly count, the Decatur County butterfly count. Awesome count. We went north of Mousetail Landing, a place where I would never go. Nobody would ever go up there unless you lived there. There's nothing there. But we had to go up there because we had to get the Appalachian brown. That's the only place that butterfly occurred. So we drive up there, and I looked at this wetland up there, and it's like, yeah, there's something in there. Got my boots on, went in there, within 5 minutes, found this plant. I didn't know exactly what it was. It took me a while to come up with Stitchwort, but eventually I couldn't identify it. But I collected some specimens, sent them to Austin P. and Mason Brock, who works for the herbarium. At least he used to. He's moving to Japan. If you know Mason, he's leaving us to go to Japan. But he identified it as Godfrey Stitchwort. So an extremely rare plant that's also a disjunct plant. Incredible. You never know what you're going to find out there when you get out and start looking. So big highlight, and we're almost done here. I'm going to talk about this plant here. This is one of those, again, you're just driving down the road and you're looking. So I was going to one of my natural areas, going to Stillhouse Hollow in Maury County, and I went a different way, decided to go a different way to the natural area. I look and I see this white plant that looked interesting. So I pulled over, turned around, and went back, got out and looked at it, and it was like, it's just a common toothwort. Oh well. Then I'm walking and I look down and I see this. And like at first I was like, I know that, but what is that? That's Taylor Hollow. Blue-eyed Mary. Oh my God, what the hell? Why is this here? I didn't even know it was state endangered. I looked it up later and it's like, it's endangered? My God. So I found it along this roadside. It was in a very disturbed area, lots of exotics between a road and a creek. And I started looking in this narrow, disturbed, forested area, and I'm finding more and more and more and more of it. Eventually, I found it in Maury County and in Lewis County, a population that is over a mile long, a very linear population along that stream. and the stream goes along away from the road onto private land, and I didn't feel like going up that stream onto private property, but I'm guessing it occurs, it follows that stream for quite a long distance. So, blue-eyed Mary, Colincia verna, state endangered. Last time I saw that was at Taylor Hollow, which is a state natural area. So this is a 2-county-er, a Maury County and a Lewis County. So we're on our last slide. And again, there was a lot of rare plants that few people in West Tennessee have been finding. And I can't put them all on here. So this is the highlights of the highlights show. But the last thing I'm going to talk about is something I got interested last year. Many years ago, I was on a Tennessee Ornithological Society event, field trip, and we went along the Mississippi to these sand dunes. When I got there, I was like, wow, I had no idea this existed here in Tennessee. I took pictures of it and sent them out and said, where am I? I could be on the coast of Georgia, but no, it was on the coast of the Mississippi River. And and then later on, I talked to Bart Jones, and he found the population of this Frolichia floridana in these sand dune communities, again, along the Mississippi River. This was in, I guess that's Lauderdale County. Snake cotton, Frolichia floridana. It's always fun to say snake cotton, but this is a rare plant in Tennessee. It's Bart found a population in 2016. It's not state listed, but I think the next time the rare plant community comes together, we are going to list this plant as special concern, maybe even threatened, because it only occurs in these sand dune communities along the Mississippi River. So last year I got interested in this community and I started looking, and I found the population that Bart found. But while I was out there looking, I found this other plant. And when I saw it, I saw these curly flower heads, and I thought, that's a heliotropium. And I was looking on my phone, heliotropium, nothing's coming up. I find out that they changed the name of it. It's now Euploca procumbens. And this is not in the Tennessee checklist of plants. So I was like, oh my God, I may have found a new plant for Tennessee that's going to be put in the checklist, which is cool. I've never found a new plant that's not known for the state. So all I needed was more than one plant so I can collect and call it a population. I looked for hours, but I never found another plant. I only ended up with this one plant. So next year, or not next year, this year, my goal is to go back to the sand dune community and maybe find more of these, and maybe more of this snake cotton and whatever else I may find in that community system. And that is the end of my slides. But before I go, before I end, I'm just going to thank all those awesome people that get out into the field and look for just going exploring, finding some cool birds or some cool plants. Again, there's not many of us here in West Tennessee, at least on the plant people. For the plant people, we got plenty of bird people, but for plant people, not too many of us. But dang, we have found some cool stuff out here. So awesome. And that is it for my talk.
Thank you, Allan. You might want to stop sharing your
screen.
Right.
That I can do.
Now we can see you. Does anyone have questions? There's some comments like, it is great to see we are still finding plants that we thought we'd lost. And another question is, are we able to sign up for hikes that you mentioned?
Oh, yeah. You can.
I just
And
posted the link in the chat.
the link is in the chat. Tennessee
TennesseeStateParks.com.
Division of Natural Areas, or you can do a web search on Tennessee State Natural Areas. That'll get you to the web page. Once you get to our Tennessee State Natural Areas web page, there's a schedule of events link. Go to that and you'll find all the events throughout Tennessee. So if you're in West Tennessee, you gotta look through it to find my events for West Tennessee. But there are events in Central and East Tennessee throughout the year. So one of my events is also a Tennessee Native Plant Society event that is going to be held in September 23rd of this year. We're going to that Sandpost Oak community. So you can get to see some of those S1 rare plants if you sign up for that trip.
Yep. And the full list of TNPS hikes is going to be coming out shortly. It'll be in the next newsletter, which Donna says sounds like it will be out within the next couple of weeks at the longest. So by the time we proof it and get it to the printer and get the printed versions out. Of course, a little faster if you go by getting it by email, plus you get the color. But that list will be out in the newsletter for March, and it'll be posted on the website in the next 10 days. Okay? So before the first hike. Any other questions besides? Oh, okay. What distinguishes this rare hawthorn from the ones growing in my East Tennessee yard?
So there's a lot of hawthorns out there. There's a lot of species in Tennessee. There's a lot in North America. And there's a lot of confusion. Some people say there's 300 species of hawthorns. Some say there's 200. Some say there's 100. There's a lot of confusion on what is a species within the hawthorns. So how do you tell them apart? It's not easy. But you just got to look in a key for hawthorns in the Tennessee Vascular Guide to Tennessee is a really good key to look at. It's not easy to use. Again, it's a complicated group. You may not be able to identify it. I come upon hawthorns all the time and I try to identify and I give up. So, but leaf shape is one thing, flowers, certain differences in the flowers, and a few other things that you have to look at.
Good. One question was, can you be a member of the Tennessee Native Plant Society if you live in another state? Yes.
Ooh.
We have members in Georgia, Kentucky, Alabama, all over the place. Lots of folks from Tennessee moving to other areas and continuing to be members, but also members of people who reside in our neighboring states.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hey, Karen.
it's $20 a year for family.
Hey, Karen.
Yes, John.
John here. Just want to put in a pitch for the Wildflower Pilgrimage coming up this year.
Yes.
So
Yes, it's coming up soon. Yep.
I see a question here from Rita. Is TDEC looking at the pollinators for these rare plants? TDEC is not looking at the pollinators for these rare plants. Somebody may be, I'm not sure. There is a federally endangered plant, Tennessee yellow-eyed grass, which wasn't part of my highlights. We didn't find any new populations, so I didn't add it. But there is a paper that lists some of the, somebody watched these plants and identified the insects that came to the plants and were potential and determined to be pollinators to the Tennessee yellow-eyed grass. But I don't know about any of those other plants that I mentioned in the highlights.
Well, I just wonder because of the pollinators, the pollinator or lack of may be a limiting factor.
Could be. And I wouldn't mind, as part of my job, to go there, take a chair and sit by these plants and watch things come to them for a couple of days, a couple hours. That would be fun. Tell my boss that you want me to do that and I'll do it.
I'll write a letter.
Write a letter.
Oh, at least one day a week, huh?
Yeah.
You have to follow the season.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bring a picnic with me.
Sure. Oh, one comment is hawthorns hybridize and cause much confusion.
Yeah. The hybridization.
I saw the sunflower you mentioned on the on the shore, I would suppose, of Reelfoot Lake, and it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably not the federally endangered plant. Probably a lookalike. There's quite a few sunflowers, and they look very much alike, unless you look at the details on them.
Mm-hmm. One comment is the link to the natural areas does not work.
What?
Oh, use the link in the chat. Okay.
Oh.
From Jennifer. Thanks, Jennifer, for keeping on top of that.
Yeah.
All right. Jennifer is Alan's other half, for those who haven't met her. Any other questions? It's your time to fire away if you have one.
Well, that was the one they had posted that they posted on Facebook today that I used to take to the calendar. I'll double check here, see if I can find it.
Okay.
But again, you do a search, Tennessee Division of Natural Areas. That's what I do. And it's usually the first thing that comes up is our natural areas page.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Alan. That was a wonderful talk. Lots of great information.
Mm-hmm.
Good pictures of plants that I don't know if I'm going to get to see, but I'll sure try.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
you all. And we'll go out and find some more, and we'll have highlights part 2.
There you go.
A few years. So
after all of us help you find even more rare plants.
Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to say thank you then, and thank you very much, Alan. Thank you for everybody who attended. It's good seeing all these wonderful faces.